Okay. Welcome.
Hello and welcome to Paradialectic. Today we're going to have a couple of special guests on, Jeff Dudewolf and Jason McCombs of the Adventureman's Guild. And it was actually a conversation that we had after one of our shows the other day where I talked about how I had gone out with them and forged a knife. And I've got to say, after forging a knife, I understand why there are countless books and movies about magical swords, because when you have like this burning hot slag of metal and you're hitting it with a hammer and you come out and you've taken this thing and shaped it into a blade, it literally feels like you are wielding the most powerful thing on earth when you're done, and it's really amazing. But something I was really struck by is your kind of reactions when we talked about it were very similar to a lot of people's reactions when it comes to this idea of a men's fraternity, an all men's group in 2021, which was, what were some of those reactions?
Why would I want to go something where it's sure that I won't get laid?
That's a big one, right?
You know, I mean that's probably the biggest. I mean, to my values, it's like and like that having a knife or chopping wood. I mean, these are things that I do entirely because they appeal to the opposite. I guess it's the why. It's the what fors for me, and not so much the like. I get it. I get what you get out of that. The fraternal appeal, I understand. I feel like for me though, it's something that I would be seeking more if I was, say, like married for a few decades, and I feel like I am oversaturated with femininity. Let me go to the woods with the boys.
So, I mean, this is, I think, part of what interests me too, is like our show is about the extremes and that range between the extremes and why they're so important. Both that ability to go to extremes when you need to, but more often that ability to find the balance flexibly and adaptably by knowing and exploring that full range and having that full range of abilities. And what I was shocked by is when I started to talk to people, men and women and fluidly gendered people, that the reactions I often got are like, whoa, a men's only group? Like there was something fundamentally wrong or immoral or evil about that idea. And I'm asking them like, well, how many like women's only groups or women majority groups or queer only groups do you belong to? And each person usually had like at least one, if not like three in their life. And I had to look back in my life about how many groups or activities have I personally ever been involved in, which were men only. Now, I don't have a typical life. I'm fairly on the left. I'm fairly artistic, fairly creative. My profession, therapy, it's female dominated, not just psychologists, but the psychiatrists, the social workers, the administrators, 70, 80% women. So I'm kind of used to being surrounded by that environment. And I realized I never had that I didn't really have that in my life that much. I have some male friends, we hang out, we do stuff. And I do traditionally, like, I like to blow stuff up, work with fire and martial arts. But again, it's always been a mixed company. When I actually went out and saw what Jason and Jeff were building, it kind of, I had some of those reactions myself too. Like, why would I want to do that? And part of me rebelled against it. And I think that's also part of what interested me. And I was kind of surprised in what I found. Because what do you think of when you think of men's groups? Like, for me, two things come to mind, but I'm curious, like, if you think about men's group, like, where does your mind go about what that is?
That we're going to be leaning into stuff that is classically mannish. I have linguistic disagreements for how some folks use the words masculinity, femininity. I like the more archetypal definition of masculine, feminine, of like structure, content, different. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm thinking the one thing that immediately appeals to me is that, well, it works both ways. So it's the opposite of there's some study that has shown that you will perform better in an academic setting if there's someone that you are romantically interested in your classroom. And I always noticed that in high school. I would drop out of a class if I got in there and I was, nope, I'm not, because that's where
Waste of my time.
That's where my values were at that time. And on the opposite end of that, there is a great freedom in when you have to give zero fucks of whether you look well kept, whether if you're bathed properly, if you don't just come off as a total barbarian. I totally see the therapeutic benefit in a week spent in the woods where I give zero fucks. How I appear, or both physically how I appear, and like do I seem like a psychopath or like a fist dragging Neanderthal? I think it's good to lean into different parts of yourself, and I don't spend that much time in that sort of a setting. So
that's why I started to look for it a bit, as I realized that there was a bit of that imbalance in my life maybe about 3 years ago. And I started to look into like men's groups. And what I found was one of two things. And I think it's what a lot of people are afraid they will find. Or if you're thinking of a men's group, like the people who don't like the idea of a men's group generally are afraid of one of these two things. And one is I found the groups that were actually super emotional in the way that they were men's groups that were mimicking women's groups, in the sense that they were talking and sharing feelings and crying and these other things in a way that, to me, that's kind of like what I do in my day job. So I didn't want or need more of that. Like, I'm really good at that stuff. And then the other side was just the opposite, like men's rights groups, where it's almost like men are abused and pushed down and this is wrong. And it's rebelling against the rebellion against patriarchy. And that totally did not appeal to me either. And I guess what really fascinated me is that my experience with the Adventureman's Guild so far has been shockingly different. And so it's not a safe space, which I think is a term that came up when I was talking with Jeff and Jason. I was actually really glad it wasn't a safe space. It's actually like a dangerous space where there's a lot of respect and support from other people. And I really like that. I like that element of risking stuff. And with that, maybe it's kind of a good time to bring to Jeff and Jason on.
Oh, yeah, I've got to send them a link. That's the thing. All right.
So we're curious. So go ahead and click through and jump into the link. And if you have questions about what this is about, why a men's group from the people who created it, Jeff and Jason, please let us know, and we will bring you into that chat when they come up. Another thing that's come up since we last talked is I've had my second COVID vaccine. And it was a little rough. I could tell that my body had built up antibodies. I was really hit about 12 hours afterwards. But I've got to say, it is one of the most relieving things I have probably done in my life. I know it's not 100%. I know it's like 95%. But if you do get it, it's a lot more mild. And I am overjoyed that I've gotten this.
I think you're the first vaccinated person I've been in the presence of.
I have an overlapping love for Zune, and I think I'm going to go out and buy a Windows phone now. But besides that, I've been feeling great.
It made you ill at first?
Yeah, about 4 hours in, I ended up feeling kind of hot flashes, and my body started to ache, and I started to get brain fog. And so that was just my immune system like doing its thing. But 12 hours in, which is what I heard, if you're going to have a solid immune response, is the worst part. So sure enough, like I woke up at about 4 a.m, and I was shaking, had chills. My body actively hurt. And yeah, it was pretty miserable. But I had some aspirin by the bed, had some extra water, had a heating pad, and the heating pad felt amazing.
You're selling it well.
Right. Well, it tells you it works. So how are we doing with the guys?
Well, I have sent them a link, and now they just click that, and will appear.
Excellent.
Drinking scotch, by the way, whilst having this conversation about man shit.
Yeah, cheers. Got some Talisker over here. He's got some Highland scotch. I like the Islay, a bit of peat.
And what do you know? We've got a Jason McCombs.
I do.
Hey, how are you doing?
Oh, I can hear myself really loud.
Nice. And so, yeah, let's welcome, this is Jason McCombs. Many of you likely know him from Theater Bazaar and other sorts of fame.
Let's go, man.
Fame, I guess.
Fame. And here we are, joined by Jeff Dude Wolf as well. Hello.
How's it going?
Going well.
Is there a way to stop the echo? The feedback?
That would be probably on your end. You might want to look in the thing where it says like audio options or something, and make sure that it's sending to your headphones.
No, it's sending to my headphones. I just hear myself.
Me too, same.
That's not the same. I have my own mic. Audio. Shows my mic. Hello? Nope, still hear myself. Oh.
That help a bit?
That helped a lot. If
There
you
we
can still
go.
hear me.
Excellent.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so welcome both of you. How are you doing today?
Good.
Excellent.
No, it's no pre-check, no nothing. Just dive in.
Dive right in. That's how we do it.
All right.
2021. We don't have time. We don't know what's going to happen next. Could be meteors. Could be Horseman of the Apocalypse. We gotta go. Every second counts.
I got it.
So-
Cheers.
What is? Oh, yeah. Actually, that's important. So, what is the intentional benefit for having a group that is boys only? Excuse me, men. Excuse me.
Yeah, men, right? Boys don't count because I think we're 18 and up, right? That's the rule, Jason.
Yeah, 18.
So, I was actually listening for a second, Zach, before we hopped on, and you and Brick both kind of nailed the way that I've always felt about it. There's something for me, I can only speak from my personal experience, right? But there's something I grew up in Boy Scouts, which is a interesting organization, and depending on how you experience it, either the worst thing ever or really incredible. But I always found it to be very very, very relieving and a really nice place to develop myself, to find myself in the middle of the woods or in the middle of some adverse scenario, surrounded by men that were doing the same thing. And I've spent a lot of my life in co-ed situations with the burner community that we're all a part of. It's also kind of a similar thing, right? Because we go through adverse situations together in a co-ed way, and that has a thing that goes along with that's also a nice growth space. But there is a unique unique thing that happens when a bunch of men sit around a campfire in the middle of the woods somewhere after doing something extremely dangerous together that is really, really difficult to replicate, and it feels really, really good in a lot of different ways. So there's in 2021 there's obviously plenty of ways to try to pick it apart, but if you haven't experienced it, it's it's something that I think that every man should have the opportunity to experience. What do you think, Jay?
Well, I mean, I've said it before, is that there's a certain dynamic when there's only men around, and I'm not talking about just from a macho standpoint or whatever, but the ability to be able to even though we shouldn't have those kinds of barriers, but we do, to be able to talk freely, to be able to communicate with each other in a way that most people will tend to be guarded in a mixed situation. And it's not like, I did listen to a little bit before, which made me sprint over here to try and get the link. It was that, that you were saying, like, we're not like, replicating a women's situation where everybody's crying together and we're in a talk about our feelings thing. But I don't rule that out as a future part of what this will become, because some people do need that. But at the same time, it's not the focus of what we're doing. The focus of what we're doing is to generate if you view yourself as a man and you want to be a good example of a male being, then we want to teach you the skills to not only take care of yourself but take care of others, but also be able to exude that, you know, gentlemanship and qualities that are kind of lost in society today because of, you know, what it means to be a man and what it means to be strong are not exclusive to being sensitive and being a chivalrous individual at the same time, as well as going out and doing fucking stupid shit and blowing stuff up. So it's like, you know, we have skills that are traditionally, you know, Boy Scout related kind of merit badge stuff, but at the same time we promote, I mean, the phrase that I use all the time, it's on the website and stuff like that, is teaching men the skills to be gentlemen of adventure. So it's like, it's not just about being, you know, a gentleman. It's also about being bold and daring, but humble and respectful at the same time.
So you, your group has a series of principles, a series of kind of, so how do you describe the kind of core ideas that the group is created around?
You mean, the traits that you're supposed to weave into your life?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a series of, actually every Adventureman, once they become a member, are supposed to participate in a structured series of events, as well as merit badges, as well as adventures and stuff like that, in order to advance in our organization. You not only have to earn merit, but you have to mentor and you have to adventure. But the core belief system is the traits of the Adventureman, which is what you're supposed to try to strive every day to live your life to be. And once you have been properly initiated, you will actually sign an oath to be to these traits, and that is your goal every day, to try and be that, emulate that. I see that Jeff just pulled up his pledge. If you want to read through some of the traits there, since you have it in front of you.
Yeah, I actually keep mine in my desk drawer at my office. I mean, I sit here all day and work, and sometimes situations come up where there might be, like, you know, ethical questions or things that come up in my life, and I'll actually pull this thing out of my desk and, like, be like, okay, this is who I'm supposed to be. So it actually affects me in real life, but I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll just kind of give you the highlights of what the general traits are that we collectively have agreed that we're going to strive to towards. And those are integrity, confidence, authenticity, respect, humility, having a thirst for knowledge, being well-mannered, having a good work ethic, and being open-minded, as well as having a spirit of adventure. So, you know, those are the, you know, they sound pretty general. We've, of course, you know, added our own interpretation of each of those things after the definition, but you know, I incorporate those things in my daily life as much as I can, and I think that even since we've started this thing, and you know, Jay and I are members just as much as we are founders, right? So we're trying to do the thing that we're trying to encourage other folks to do. I mean, living by those principles, it makes me a better person. So.
And that's really struck me, because I'm, as many of you know, I work with men in a kind of a therapy context. It's not just men and women, but it's one of the few patriarchal, in the U.S. military is one of the few patriarchal structures that's really elevated, that's left in the world. And in that sense, and whether you're male or female, regardless of what you identify with, because I work with people from all different ranges there, that there is a very strong sense of what a person should be. But I think that what people get confused about a lot is when it comes to those traits, we hear a lot about what makes a bad or unhealthy or a toxic man, about the qualities that are destructive, are problematic, are hurtful. And then what happens is on the flip side, and when I'm working with a lot with women or with the even male partners of other men, that there is a lament. There is a sense of, well, I don't want bad men, but I want a man. And on the other side, men are like, well, I'm trying to be these things, but I know all the things I shouldn't be. I know all the bad ways to do this, but where's my example of how to live? And it kind of what strikes me about what you guys are doing is it's not about what not to do. It's really kind of coming back about what to aspire to, and not just theoretically or this is what you, or in a moral way. It's like, go out in the world, test yourself, put yourself in risky situations with other guys who are in the same situation, and be examples to each other and help each other with your growth. Is that kind of a little bit of what you're going for there?
Yeah, that's very concise. I mean, you distilled it down into some of the major aspects. I mean, the problem that like, I mean, this has now been over a year of development before it was actually launched, as well as lots of research, and it's just like most of the male sites and most male stuff is like, either exactly what we don't want to preach or too muddled in just like you said, that's wrong, that's bad, that's wrong, instead of encouragement and actual support network and actual growth.
I think the first 6 months, Jay and I talked about this in every single conversation as we were doing our research and kind of during the formative time where we were putting some of the stuff together. We were really deeply exploring, the word toxic masculinity. And if you ever want to go insane, do that. Because we couldn't figure out exactly what that means. And more importantly, we couldn't figure out exactly what it doesn't mean, which is exactly what you just said. And that's where we found that hole. And we said, okay, well, you just Google toxic masculinity. There's 700 articles right there that'll tell you all about how to be bad. Right. And basically every traditional cis white male behavior is in that somewhere. So who are we and what the fuck are we trying to do? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And how do we actually be positive and make a positive impact in the world when we're kind of, I'm definitely not going to sit here and try to pretend like cis white males are an oppressed class, but the whole internet or world and culture in 2021 is telling us that most of the things that you learned as a child are wrong, So my heroes growing up, right? Who were your heroes as a kid growing up in the 80s, right? You got Indiana Jones and James Bond and all these super awesome guys, right? Which, looking back on some of those things, 90% of the shit that they did was still pretty sweet. And then there was some stuff that maybe doesn't translate in 2021, but those were our heroes, right? At least me, I was like, man, if I could grow up and be Indiana Jones, that would be the shit, So it's still to this day, those things excite me. If I put on, Temple of Doom, I would, if I could trade to make that my life, from sitting in an office and doing a thing, right? Of course, that's what I would want to do. So we kind of, like Jay said, we're trying to figure out how do you come up with practical examples of how to be a good person that identifies as a man, which is a very important point. We aren't checking anyone's plumbing, just anyone who, says they're wanting to live life that way, that they're welcome to our group.
So to be clear there, I think this is important. So you're welcoming anybody who, I think the way you even put it, while they're in this setting, while they're in this place, identifies in wanting to better the masculine side of themselves. Is that a fair way of putting it, or?
Yeah, I mean, we have, we're not a huge group yet, but there are people that would be considered gender fluid in regular life, but it's understood that when you're participating with the Adventureman's Guild, that that's what you're trying to develop is your masculine side, and that's what you're there to do, and that's great. I don't, I don't have any problem with anybody living however they want the rest of the time, and I don't have any problem with that in general. I mean, like if the people watching this know, the background with Theater Bizarre and everything else, like gender fluidity, non-binary, transgender, none of that matters in my view. But for this specific type of group and what it is that we're trying to develop, it's important.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw the live action Mulan the other day. And it was. I think it was worthwhile. It was necessary.
It was necessary, huh?
Yeah, they de-musicalified it, but they had references to the musical. But it seemed to me like the point of that was to have it be more serious and emotional and about particularly that thing about being in a man's situation. Trying to be forced to fit the mold of classic man shit when one is anatomically a woman. So with that though, with it being we're leaning into the masculine parts of ourselves, would it ever come into debate whether it could be that language as opposed to must be man? Because
it is that language on the website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so masculine.
it says identified as man. Like okay. It's not a. And I guess we should clarify some of the language because it is been talked about and been decided that that's how we'll move forward. But I guess it isn't super clear that if you are gender fluid, that I guess is not really on the website. But I've also been trying to plan dozens of events and other things, so it's been
not get carried away. And when I think of that masculine thing, the most easy way to describe it in terms of in this context is I notice sometimes that I'll be oversaturated with nurture, that the things that we see a lot in the memosphere of it's okay to feel like you're not doing enough, that kind of an anti-striving sentiments of like however you are is just good, and we're just going to love you and nurture you for that. And sometimes I really crave, and I definitely can see how my life benefits from my voluntarily, consensually entering situations where somebody's going to fucking prod me, and that's the nature of the moment. The atmosphere is fucking you could be more, you could do better.
That is, to a big degree of a definite that you are striving to better yourself. You're striving to have better skills. You're striving to be more than what you were yesterday. The whole, I'm nothing against the whole nurture, and especially people who need that in their life of like you're good enough. We're a group of people that want to be more than what we were yesterday, want to be better men, want to hone and refine and create something more than what we are and what we were. The ability to learn from each other and teach each other has been unbelievably rewarding in myself. And watching everybody at we did a fly fishing event, and Jeff pretty much spearheaded the structure of all that classroom stuff. But then, I still taught part of it. Other people came in and taught part of it. It was a very intensive weekend. But watching somebody who had no idea how to do a specific skill, like I did a whole thing on sharpening an axe, and watching somebody learn how to properly do that. And then, as he said it, I've had this axe for years, and it's always been a piece of shit. But once he sharpened it and knew how to sharpen it right, he cut his first piece of wood and was just like, oh my God, and he did that himself. And that was gratifying, as well as teaching people other, like, how to tie a simple fly and other things like that. You know, I don't know if you want to add to that, Jeff. It was.
Well, I go back to what Zach said, and kind of by joining a group like ours, especially the characters that we have involved in it right now, you're by default giving you're giving permission to these gentlemen to kind of kick you in the ass a little bit along the way, and it's kind of the opposite of that nurture thing. And me personally, some days I need the nurture thing. Like I'm not perfect. You know, I have my days where I'm like, shit, I just need to chill out and digest something. But my default mode is, please kick me in the ass, challenge me. Like I want to wake up and I want to try to figure out how to do what I know how to do better, how to learn new things, how to try things that are outside of my comfort zone. I mean, think of all the growth that's ever happened in your life, right? How much of that is, sitting on your couch thinking about your feelings? It's some of it is, but most of the areas where I've experienced the most personal growth have been when I'm terrified because fill in the blank, right? So I really like to be in that zone where I'm outside of my comfort zone, and by trying to teach skills and surround yourself with people that are in that same mindset, it becomes a really conducive environment for that kind of growth.
And it really does. It seems like I said before you guys were on, an unsafe space, a challenging space with respect and support. That there's that balance there.
Yeah, like I can't remember the exact wording of it where you said it's a dangerous space with something else. I can't remember though, but yes, it's I mean, I just sent out the confirmation emails for the monkey run, which starts off with, well, you stepped in shit now. And it's just like, because you signed up to do something fucking ridiculously stupid. But at the same time, like, I mean, that was part of the genesis of how this all kind of came about. Jeff had wanted to do this for a while, but we had talked about it in Peru on these.
Let's set the scene on that. Really set the scene, because it sounded like the genesis of the Adventureman's guild was really that monkey run in Peru, and I'm not sure everybody's familiar with what a monkey run is. So can you guys set the scene on that?
Sure, I'll do it.
Yeah.
What a monkey run is the stupidest possible thing that you can do. Basically, you get on a children's motorcycle and take it somewhere that you really shouldn't, in the most arduous possible way. So I think it was, maybe winter of fall of 2017. I just posted on Facebook. There's this group called the Adventurous. Actually, so I had been thinking about the Adventureman's Guild for the past decade, and I was thinking about names for it, actually. And I came across this group on the internet called the Adventurous, and they're a bunch of psycho adventure guys from London that just do kind of the gnarliest stuff on Earth that they will let other people participate in. For example, hey, let's paddle a dugout canoe across the Indian Ocean, or fly a paraglider across the continent of Africa, or ride a horse across Mongolia, or ride a children's motorcycle through the Andes and into the Amazon. And for whatever reason, I was like, oh, let's do that, right? So I posted on Facebook, and Jay and 6 other of my stupid friends decided that they would join, right? So we were like, yeah, let's do this, right? Sounded cool, sounded harmless, and it wasn't at all. We got, abducted by a tribe of indigenous people in the Amazon jungle, for instance, held against our will at gunpoint, knife point, dart point, machete point, chicken point, all of those things. I mean, it sounds hilarious, but it's fucking terrifying, right? So like, we had this experience together that, again, just back to shared adversity. What a monkey run is the stupidest possible thing. Ride a children's motorcycle 700 or 1,000 miles through the gnarliest terrain on Earth with no support, just your friends and your know-how and intuition, right? And what we found in that is just this shared adversity. And I know a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life, law enforcement, ex-military, people of various, I'd call them, maybe fraternal backgrounds in that situation, right? So that have gone through some really gnarly stuff, and guys that go through really either tragic or impactful or scary situations together, not just guys, but anyone. you build these bonds, and you learn about yourself in that space and in that time. And oftentimes I've noticed my friends that are vets, they'll go to war and see the gnarliest, most terrible things that you could possibly imagine, right? And they'll come back, and 15, 20 years later, they don't even like look at normal people the same. But those people that they shared that experience with, those are like their people for life, So just, kind of not saying that what we did in that circumstance was combat, because it wasn't, but it was a very adverse situation, and we kind of saw the power, because I still feel connected to we called our group the 9/11-7, and we still have a group chat, and I still probably feel more connected to the 9/11-7 than most other human beings on this earth, right? Because the things that we experienced and saw together while we were being, robbed or abducted or whatever stupid thing that we put ourselves through, those, nobody else will ever understand that. You really see who someone is, you can see right past the bullshit when somebody's got a gun pointed at their head, or when somebody's about to fall off a fucking cliff that's 2,000 feet. There's no room for facade in those situations. You get through the layers pretty quick. And not saying that we're setting out to only do those things, because I would never recommend that anyone does exactly that. It's a very, very bad idea. But there are ways that we can, create kind of similar situations, maybe a little bit less dangerous. And that's what we're working on.
Well, the Monkey 1000, although you probably won't be held up by a tribe, I'm not going to rule it out, but it's still pretty fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of...
What's that going to be, Jay? So for the people that aren't familiar with
the Great American Monkey 1000 is our attempt to recreate what we had done in Peru in the States. This had been in development for a long time. This is also part of, like, very early on Adventureman's Guild, what we were trying to build, and I can't tell you the man hours of research that has gone into it. It was originally going to be that we were going to, it started in the middle of nowhere and ended in the middle of nowhere, and figure it out, and now it's still kind of in the middle of nowhere, but it's not too far off from Denver. And the gist of it is that you are buying one of the world's stupidest modes of transportation, which is in the form of a Honda CT70 clone, which is has every possible manufacturing corner cut when it's made. So it's of top-notch quality, and you are going to attempt to reach several different waypoints within the great state of Colorado that are it's up to you on how and how many and where you want to go and how you can get there. But the goal is to reach as many of them as possible, whichever way you want to go to get there, and try not to die. But it's on a 125 monkey bike that's a foot and a half off the ground with a top speed of 50 miles an hour with a wind behind you going downhill.
Maybe 38, but yeah.
If you're going steep downhill and you weigh as much as me, you get up to about 50.
Yeah.
So it seems there's the theme of not just dangerous but dumb. So is dumb a trait that is classically man? Are you saying?
Yes, I think so. I actually think it is like a classic man trait, and I think that we learn in our dumbness, though. I think you got to embrace it, right?
Well, I think it also comes back to part of the. I mean, we are very. I don't want to say soft, but we just don't have. We don't have a lot of things in this world that are just extremely exciting in the fact that it's dumb. It's like there's a world that like, yeah, you could go walk across a glacier and you could fall into a crevasse and you could go do some extreme expedition, which we encourage, is also that the fact that you're doing something that is almost just not right. Like it makes it more exciting, and it's something that I mean, we learned on this adventure with the Adventurists, and because it didn't exist in the U.S., we tried to create it in the U.S., which now evidently they want to do, and I feel like we forced their hand. If they already had it, we would have just went on that, but but it's like, because this won't be the last thing that's going to be, like I think that the Great American Monkey 1000, although we couldn't do the trail that we wanted to do originally because we decided to make a loop, is that it will take place in different, we're thinking Utah next year, and be in another place, do Yellowstone, do whatever, but we're going to Costa Rica to do a surf school, and that's not necessarily stupid, but it doesn't mean that in the long run that, we're trying to. It got postponed and ultimately canceled and will be postponed again, but like the Vietnam Riders Club, we're planning to go to Vietnam and buy shitty motorcycles in Vietnam and ride the coast of Vietnam because it's there. It's stupid. It's not nearly as dangerous, but it can be depending on which way you go. So
you can find a lot of I don't know if any of you guys have read Robert Persig's Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, have you?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes, I mean, he basically summarizes all of modern philosophy and all of life through the allegory of maintaining and riding a motorcycle across the United States, right, in that book. And so as weird as it is for a child's motorcycle to kind of be like a central part of what we're trying to do, I actually think is pretty powerful. I mean, that what was your takeaway from that book, Brick? I'm curious.
Oh, that was a while ago. I probably read that 20 to 25 years ago, but something that's always appealed to me is philosophy in action, because if you have an idea, if you have philosophy, you have a plan, and you just stay at home and you feel smart because you have a philosophy, like what the hell use is it? And that you don't know what works and doesn't work until you're in the shit and you're doing something risky and things are going wrong. And that was kind of the heart of the book to me and why I liked it so much. It's the same thing with martial arts. It's what Bruce Lee did. He would go to all the old masters who were going like, well, I can't fight you because my chi would kill you. It's like, well, how many pull-ups can you do with that chi? Okay, I'm not that many, so I'm not too concerned. So let's go. And he would have people fight him and they would lose. And it's because their philosophy, their approach, it was untested. And so it sounds like what you guys are doing is you're having people test their philosophy in the world in a way.
Yeah, both philosophy and skills, right? Like it's test yourself, test your philosophy, and then also try to prepare for those things. Kind of a key difference between what the Adventurists do and what we're trying to do is those guys are like, hey, if you're dumb enough to sign up for this, like fucking go for it. You sign the waiver. It's like, it literally says like, you're probably going to die. It's like the first thing that it says. It's funny. But what we're trying to do is kind of balance like preparation and also like help develop philosophy, right? Like help develop people as well-rounded individuals with both mental and physical skills, and then go test the shit out of it and beat yourself up and figure out who you really are, because that's what happens. Like you said, you can sit around in your house and think you're the smartest person ever because you read all the books and know all the things. Get abducted by a tribe in the Amazon, see how you behave. You know what I mean? Like,
we didn't even get the worst of it. I saw other people that actually had to like take a boat somewhere else to negotiate with a chieftain and stuff. It was, there was some sketchy shit there. But yeah, like, I mean, I guess, test yourself and challenge yourself is part of it. And it is challenging if I want to go buy like a really nice BMW motorcycle and take on the TAT. I'm not going to say that that's not a challenge. The Trans-American Trail, which is the last dirt road across America, yes, that is challenging. But in 7 days, you are going to be far more challenged by riding a child's motorcycle in this little loop that we've created than you would ever have on a comparable, like a competent motorcycle. You know what I mean? Like you are going to have to fix this bike. You bought it brand new. It will be broken. You need to fix it. Like, you need to figure that out. You need to find a way to get to where you're gonna make it the next way. I mean, this bike is so willfully underpowered for what you plan to do with it, and has no range. It has a 0.8 gallon gas tank. Like, you're gonna have to carry gas. Like, range will be an issue, but that's part of the adventure. Is that, like, I mean, when people go off into the unknown, that doesn't really exist anymore. There's no uncharted territory that you could, drive your car to and just go off and do something. So, I mean, these trails and all this area and this network, what we did in Peru is actually more difficult because Peru is one of the most poorly mapped places in the world. And Colorado, there's a shit ton of information on every kind of trail and what way to go and all that kind of stuff. But that's on you to figure out. And if you want to just show up and have done none of the research, on you, man. That's cool.
That's what I do. Jay and I are completely opposites. Jay overanalyzes everything and reads everything. I literally showed up to Peru. I didn't fucking read anything. I was like, yep, okay, we have a physical map. We're going there. Jay's like, I got this whole thing prepared.
Well, I remember talking to Jay a little bit before he went, and I think for all of his planning, there wasn't too much to find out, because I think, if I remember correct, essentially, like, well, this whole area is kind of unknown. Like, I think this is a road, but I'm not entirely sure. So I think we're going to try that way. And
I found a bunch of stuff, and I found because it's unmapped. I did tons and tons of research, and Garmin has nothing. None of the U.S. maps, none of the world maps exist for Peru. But I found like a crowdsourced mapping system that loaded into my GPS that was fairly accurate. But we didn't use any of that. Pretty much, Jeff and Thad would get up in the morning. They both bought Peruvian SIM cards, so their phones worked. And they would just zoom in on the map and just be like, okay, well, this is a way to get there, and this is an easy way to get there. And then just zoom in and be like, well, this dirt road sort of looks like it's that. Like, this looks straight fucked. Let's go that way. And just like, that's what we, like, whatever was pretty much the worst possible choice you could make was what we did on purpose.
Which is actually how you win a monkey run.
Well, yeah, so it's
yeah, you don't win by finishing first. You win by finishing like
a day late,
the hardest possible, stupidest way. Yeah,
finishing interestingly.
We won it a day. We were there a day late, with one bike broken in a taxi in a tuk-tuk cab, and showed up at the party that we should have been there, already a day ago, and never checked in. No one knew if we were alive. No, yeah. So they gave us the spirit of the monkey run because we embraced the spirit of adventure, which is part of what we have worked into our goal.
Nice. So with the one that you have coming up, what are some of the highlights that people can hit if they can get to them along the way? What are some of the things you have planned?
Well, I'm finishing going through all of the waypoints and stuff that we want people to go to, but there's one spot that's it's the Continental Divide. There's an old mining town that's really fucking cool. There's a bunch of things that will be part of it, and then the dumb luck. We've been planning this for a very, very long time, and when we got into where we finally locked in that we were going to start and end in Eagle, so that people could actually feasibly be able to get their monkey bike home by driving there and throwing in the back of their
And because the name is ironically patriotic.
That's true too. There's a whole ironic patriot thing going on with what we're doing. That's why everything's in metric, even though it's it's the Great American Monkey 1000, but it's 1,000 kilometers on a 76
Chinese
centimeters from the ground on a Chinese motorcycle. But the dumb luck of it is that a longtime burner and friend of ours actually lives in Eagle, but I didn't know that until after we announced it. He's like, somebody told me that he lived in Eagle. I was like, no, that's Willie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he's helping us plan a bunch of stuff, and he rides all the time out there. And he's just like, there was certain trails. He's just like, yeah, you should probably just say no to that. And I'm like, well, we're not telling them where to go. They can go wherever they want. So
In the group text, he's like, oh no, yeah, you guys definitely can't go that way. And we're like, yeah, we're going that way. So.
Yeah. So, he's helping us plan some stuff. So I think that one of the things that I want to try to figure out is a rally point at least halfway through the week, because it's 7 days of riding. So we're probably going to try to plan, even though there's a beginning party and an after party. I'd like to see if we can get all the monkey runners to descend on a city on like Wednesday and just like.
Wait, so they're not. So you're not together during this. You go off your separate ways. And
No, your team can go whatever way you want.
Okay.
Do whatever you want to do.
So is there like a radical self-reliance ish sort of principle?
Yeah, we don't give you a map.
The most radical. Yeah,
It's
complete
forced.
self-reliance.
Forced radical self-reliance.
Yeah, it's up to you to figure out how to get wherever you're gonna go.
Is there a punitive?
An ideal monkey run team is like maybe like 3 to 4 people. Anything more, like 7 people is insane. It's really impossible to keep everyone together. And you got to be like totally crazy to do something like that by yourself. Although some people will do it because some people are really crazy.
Yeah.
But
well, in Peru, there was that one guy that went by himself, and I'd see him every now and then. And he like didn't have shoes
fucking
on.
legend.
And just like I was just bombing.
Fucking
by.
legend, dude. This guy's just rolling around, riding a motorcycle with no fucking clothes on through the jungle. Somehow making. I don't understand. I still don't understand actually.
Still
He's
friends with
a
him on
legend in my
Facebook.
mind.
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
He was on a walkabout.
What if? Is there something that happens if you fail?
If you fail, as far as like you can't make it to all the places, there is no
finish,
failure.
back
You just go back to Eagle and wait till we get there. There'll be a party.
I mean, it's not, again, it's back to self-reliance. So like, you got to figure out how to get your motorcycle out. You got to figure out how to pick up your own pieces.
Yeah, it's your bike
Failure.
at the end of it. How do you get it home? It's up to you. That's yours.
And you could like fall off a cliff or,
Yeah.
You could.
It's I mean, several people have died on the Peru monkey run. So
Several
like,
people have died on several of these types of events. Like there's a whole reason why they don't do the dugout canoe thing anymore. Like that event doesn't exist anymore because it's people just die on it, And I have grown up riding motorcycles, and I wouldn't consider myself a motorcycle expert, and I'm definitely not an off-road expert, but Peru is some of the most technical motorcycle riding I've ever done in my life. And I was talking with Willie about it. He's like, well, I was watching your video in Peru, and he's like, these trails are a lot worse. These trails are like you need to know what's up. And he started sending me videos of people falling off 1,000-foot fucking like with their GoPro. And there's one guy that's just like, oh, good thing there was a pond at the bottom of that. And some guy who stopped halfway, but somehow his bike didn't hit him on the way down, So I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be difficult, but I think that if you feel that you're getting over your head, the fact that there is no route, the fact that there is no end destination except for back where you came from. Is that if it gets too crazy and gets too hairy, turn the fuck around, go back, find another way to get to where you want to go. Like it's different than what it was for the monkey run in Peru and all the other monkey runs that the adventurers do. Is that you have to make it to that place, like that's where you have to go. Which also they have a lot of ha because they start and then they dump you off in the middle of the fucking nowhere whatsoever, and it's on you to try and figure out how to get out. So ours is close but not as bad.
So
and probably only like half the people in that one that we did finished. So the other half ended up taking some other alternative means of transportation by throwing their bike in a truck or a boat or something.
Yeah.
So the monkey run is pretty intense, and there's going to be a lot of other intense things planned, but it's not just the monkey run. I know that I've already been to about three or four of the Adventureman events.
Yeah, there's a lot of events coming up actually.
So for example, the fly fishing, well, it was cold. It was in the middle of fall on the far side of Michigan. It's something that I actually pushed myself to do because I literally don't like the idea of fishing. I never grew up fishing. I never bait fished. And fly fishing, I've heard people talk about it with a certain mystique. If you talk about Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, I've heard people describe it in kind of more of a spiritual way, and I didn't get it. And that's why I wanted to do it. And then I did. And Jeff, kind of kudos to you for the way that you described it, and some of the other guys showed us. Even though I think there was one fish caught. It was a little guy. But even so, coming out of that, what I was really impressed by is years ago, I'd watched the movie A River Runs Through It, and I posted about this recently. And just this weekend, I watched it again. And it's one of those movies where it kind of uses fly fishing as a metaphor for spirituality or philosophy. And I watched it and I got it. And I got it in a way that I would have never got it if I hadn't been part of that. And I really appreciate the opportunity to do something I don't think I would have ever done for any other reason, unless I down the road became super good friends with someone who was an avid fly fisherman. They're just like, dude, you got to come with me. So kind of talk a little bit about how you choose things like the fly fishing. And recently also I talked about before you guys came on, we got to forage a knife, which I was describing as, I get why magical weapons are at the heart of so many books and movies, because as I was taking that hammer to that kind of molten steel and I was pounding into shape again and again and again, and I was done, I felt like I could split a rock in half with this thing. So how do you choose the activities that we've done? What's the thought that goes into it? And then what are some things you guys have planned moving forward?
So
go ahead.
I'll start with the activities or the stuff that we kind of choose as far as what merits and skills we've identified as our initial skills, right? So Jason and I will kind of jokingly refer to Dos Equis guy every once in a while and be like, what does that guy know how to do? You know what I mean? What would he do in that situation? He's not a real person, right? He's a character and an idea, right? Maybe just an archetype of some magical guy that just somehow knows how to be exactly at home in every single possible scenario, right? So then what are all the things that we think are cool, like real valuable skills that we might want to accomplish in our lives, and things that we would look up to other people if they knew how to do, and then balance those things with things that are consistent with our oath and with our commitment to what we're trying to do, right? So those 10 things that I read earlier, actually, are there 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there are. What are the skills and kind of situations that if you're trying to live that kind of life, you would develop, right? So we're not done, but we came up with, I think 50 things. And then we said, let's assign a kind of like a point value to each one of these skills, and then developed our kind of ascension through our ranks based on that. So what we're trying to do is build a well-rounded individual, right? Somebody who has a combination of skills that are practical, spiritual, that prepare them, to deal with the world in a way that's meaningful. And then pair that with proving that they're willing to, put themselves out there and experience some danger, and pair that with a very important part of what we're doing right now is developing our mentorship program, which is a integral part of what we're doing, because, kind of carrying each other along the way is equally or more important as developing yourself. So we came up with a list of those things, right? So, what do we think those things are? Fly fishing is a great example. I've been fishing my whole life, right? And like I told you, fishing isn't catching, right? I'm not going out there just to yank fish out of the water and damage their lips. That's not my objective when I go do that, right? I found personally that standing in a stream in nature, replicating a natural process. In the case of fly fishing, right? You're pretending that you're a fly or a nymph, existing out there in nature, and becoming just through that very simple thing, becoming part of the cycle of life, right? And predation and all those things, right? And that's a very raw, natural thing. So from a meditative standpoint, fly fishing is super powerful because of the repetitive motions and the sounds and all those things, right? So you balance that with, kind of the spiritual ideas that come along with connecting with nature, and you have this thing that's not like a lot of the city folk that I know think of fishing as something rednecks do, right? But there's a pretty refined spiritual connection that you can find if you go put yourself in that situation. So I personally have been very fortunate in life. I've done very well for myself. I've experienced ridiculous amounts of incredible things, right? And I just know a lot of people that haven't been able to do that for whatever reason. They didn't have a strong father figure in their life. They grew up in the wrong place. They didn't have a lot of money when they were young. They, whatever, fill in the blank, right? There's a lot of reasons that a guy might not have ever been fly fishing in the Paramarquette River, right? But that's a really fucking powerful thing that I've been fortunate enough to experience and understand in a pretty deep way. So, and a lot of other things like that. So we're constantly seeking what those things are, and then trying to develop that and add it to the list of skills, because that list is getting big, and it's going to get bigger, and it's not just us. It's not just my idea of what's cool. It's not just Jay's idea of what's cool. I mean, we're now developing stuff based on what our membership understands, things that we don't know. So, I mean, we're learning just as quickly as we're teaching, right? So, maybe Jay, you could run over some of the stuff we got coming up. But even some of that's based on what members want to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's taken itself in directions that I didn't really expect. I mean, the whole what ultimately became bladesmithing, started out as a blacksmithing merit badge, which started out as a conversation that other people wanted to do. I didn't set out to have a blacksmithing class. It just that's the direction that I took, because right now, I mean, we're 55 members or something like that at this point, and which is still mind-boggling to me, even though that seems small, but for me that seems huge. Like that's a lot of people that have bought into what it is that we're doing and agree that this is a good thing. But we're small enough right now that, and you were part of that at the fly fishing trip, that sitting around the fire and talking about the growth of this organization, how this organization should expand, and how we should work together, and how we should vet people, and how all of that is taking place, is a much larger collective conversation than I thought it would be, and I'm grateful for it. And that has steered where we're going as to, well, what merit badge should we have next, and what merit badge should we do again, and what merit badge should we have featured in the future, and how to plan events around that stuff. Has been a much larger conversation than I thought it would be, and I welcome it, and I agree with it. It's been amazing. The other part of that is has been just the fact that we've been developing out, which we have tons of merit badges that have been planned that have not been created yet, because we're ultimately developing the Adventureman's manual. So at some point in time in the future, once we have enough stuff written, developed, worked out, that just like a Boy Scout manual, we would have an actual manual that you could have that would serve you. That you'd be able to look up knowledge and understand things and learn things without having to go on one of these trips or go on one of these adventures and stuff. And then developing a certification program for that, so that we could test your skills, in the long run. And as we are building, the next step, as Jeff said, is right now we're working on a lot of the mentorship stuff, which is kind of silent in the group because we're still proving out a lot of the concepts. But both Jeff and I have a mentee that are members that we are working with. And I have one official one, but I technically have two, and this is all stuff that is going to be important and crucial, and the only path for any member to move forward in the hierarchy of what, for lack of a better term, rank in the organization. Like, you can earn all the merit badges you want, but if you don't help your brothers along the way, you're not going to get anywhere. That's part of the foundation of what we're building, is that you need to work together to better each other as well as yourself.
So what I'm kind of,
and I don't want to speak out of school and say anything, because a lot of this stuff's confidential between individuals, but I can just say, like, sitting from where I'm sitting and watching Jay and his relationship with his mentees, it's been really interesting and really encouraging and inspiring, because I've watched them challenge each other in ways that, like, I don't think otherwise ever would have happened. And I watched them grow out of situations that were, adverse together, just hanging out and talking, and I think that that's a really powerful thing that a lot of people are lacking. Relationships, in 2021 are pretty shallow, in my opinion. There's a lot of bullshit, quick text messages back and forth and memes and Facebook bullshit, and not a lot of, like, hey, let's really sit down and dig into stuff and work on ourselves together. So it's been pretty inspiring for me to do that myself, and to watch Jason do it as well.
So kind of hearing this, kind of reading between the lines here, I'm hearing that helping one another and that kind of specific focus of somebody who has kind of more of an idea of what this is about, helping someone who has less, so that they can kind of share and grow. But I'm also hearing, if I'm reading between the lines correctly, that this is a way to really help kind of mold and shape a particular culture in the organization, so it doesn't get run over if, like, you have a sudden influx of people, so you don't kind of lose the heart of what you're trying to do. Is that correct?
100%. I mean, we watched it when we first launched this thing. It was like nobody was joining for a little bit, and then suddenly it was like several people per week, and we were kind of like, oh shit, what do we do? How do you maintain the heart of an organization, and how do you maintain the idea and the governing principles and philosophies of something? Well, because our real goal is to let it go. We don't want to be sitting on a throne somewhere telling everyone what to do. We want the system to work in a distributed fashion, right, at scale. So we're trying to figure that out, and it's but that's the goal, and that's those things are what we're trying to figure out.
So something else that I find really powerful. So one of my favorite authors is Neil Stephenson. He wrote Diamond Age, Snow Crash, and something that he consistently does is he looks at how culture and technology are likely to change things in the future. And he started writing about 20 years ago, and again he hit solidly. He predicted Google Earth, he predicted VR and Second Life and things like this. And one of the things I was really struck by is that he predicted the artisanal movement, the craft movement, and hipsters. He predicted that he was doing this because he was talking about nanotechnology. So the more that we can instantly reproduce something, the more that we're going to value crafting something by hand, and an entire culture would come up around that. And in kind of a way here, this is kind of making me realize that something that you guys are doing, that the Adventureman's Guild is doing, is there are so many of these skills that maybe people could have access to in their daily life, maybe people had access to growing up, but chances are that they would have access to all of these skills in one place with a single upbringing, is in this day and age highly unlikely. Even if maybe back in the 50s or the 40s or 30s or the 20s, that was kind of the staple of who people were. And so
Are you calling us super hipsters?
exactly, that's the thing. Super.
You get a cape,
Yeah,
an artisanal cape.
yeah, you like.
I made it myself.
But I think it's okay because you're gonna end up bleeding on a lot of shit, so it won't be too soft. But really, you're kind of there's a catalog here of skills that everybody used to have access to that people don't anymore, and I think it's kind of amazing in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like that's kind of what the manual is, right? What's that book that just killed on Kickstarter, but it's like what it's designed for the Civilization
book?
Restart.
Yeah, the book.
Yeah,
I can't wait for my copy. It's some guy. It's literally like if there was only one book you could take with you to restart civilization. And it's mostly an illustrated book, which is why I was way into it. But it blew up.
Fucking awesome.
And now it's got like all these different sections that weren't going to be a part of it because it's made so much money, and it's going to be this like gilded page tome of how to build a society. So
well, even that with the success of that Kickstarter, right? And what what Brick just said is like. I've seen with my own eyes and heard with my own ears the kind of desperate longing for this kind of thing in people's lives. Like I'll be talking to somebody in some mundane situation, bumping into them in a grocery store or something like that, and explain what we're doing, and they're just like, "Oh my God, please, how do I get that?" Like I need something like that in my life. So there's a big, we've tapped into a big vein of demand for that type of thing. So we just got to figure out how to responsibly fulfill that, I think.
Yeah, and moving forward, it's like part of the whole, like you said, not to change the heart of the organization. I mean, when you signed up, the questionnaire was not as robust as it is now. And eventually we are probably going to incorporate into the vetting system a vouching system. Like it's not necessarily an elitism. It's just that there's an archetype that we are aspiring to be, and if you clearly do not fall in line with that, then it's not that. It's such a hard way to phrase something because it's like
it's just not the right place for you.
Yes,
right. If someone has radically different values from what you're trying to create here, it's just not the right place.
Because it's not about upbringing, it's not about race, it's not about social class. It's about a mindset, which is different than all of those things. So it's hard to put into words, but I mean, I've already had, as the page has been growing and the website has been gaining traction and we've been paying for advertising and stuff. It's just unfortunately some of the aspects of what it is that we aspire to on some paper attracts a misogynistic or racist or just a backward thinking type of person that could benefit if they could actually see what it is that we're trying to teach. But I think that they're looking for more of a group that's like them. And while at this point right now, because we're in such a small stage, that we have a very monochromatic and one type of person. That's not the goal in the long run. But at the same time, I'm not going to bring in people that clearly are going against the morals and the values that we are working towards. So it's kind of interesting to see the organic spread as well as the friends that we have, because I didn't really expect, random guy from Georgia that
Miller Lite 69 with a Confederate flag for his profile picture.
No, that happened too, but no, Deshaun from Georgia, who's a black guy that loves fucking motorsports, loves motocross, found us through Instagram through the Monkey Run, and filled out an application and wants to be a member, but there's not a lot for us to offer him unless he's willing to travel, because we're primarily Michigan based, which leads us to our next step, which is, right now we're proving out the mentorship and trying to get all of the details of how and you move through and what is the structure of the organization. But then also the next step is to, well, what's your closest chapter? Because right now we're in a position where we're going to start to break out, where, Jeff is Lansing Mid-Michigan chapter, I'm a Detroit chapter, I want to start a Florida chapter, a Chicago chapter, because that's where our groups are starting to congregate. And once we can start to prove that out, then it opens up a world of possibility for people within a network to have local events, have hiking events, have camping events, have skill building events outside of, I got to spend $1,000 to go do this thing if I want to go do it, and ultimately I want to create a spread that it's not just these major events that you have to go to, that there are, $50, $100 events, $20 events, that are regular, that are close enough to you that you don't have to have a hotel room. You don't have to, you know what I mean? But it's growing at, this is the infant stage. I mean, it's not even a toddler yet. It's just this baby needs a lot of work still. So, I mean, it's interesting to see even like email feedback and a lot of stuff that comes in through the website and stuff. I got a huge letter about a single mom who wanted to know if there was a female version of it, and which we have talked about, and I have people that want to help us lead that, but we're too early in the stage of the men's version to build a sibling organization yet. It's on the ultimate goal would be to have both those. But right now, we have to focus where we are and meet the people that we're working with where they are. And then eventually, like, I'm not going to build out how a female organization is going to work. I mean, we'll have a structure of what the organization as a whole needs to work, but then I need to have somebody else that can do that. And we're just not there yet. And like, I had a whole back and forth email about the Monkey Run, about how this guy wants to take his son on it. He's 14, and he's just talking about how he's like, this is exactly the kind of organization that I want my son to be in. And I'm like, well, we're just not in a position that we could take any, I'm not going to take the responsible, legal responsibility of sending a minor over a cliff. So, I'll
send an adult over a cliff every single day.
But his whole point was that he's like, yeah, my son's in the BSA, my son's in Civil Air Patrol, and he's like, they don't really do adventures, they don't do anything exciting. He's like, it's all overrated paper achievement. And I don't want our organization to be that. I want our organization to be proved by skill, not just to get a piece of paper to say that you could do that.
Mm-hmm. So, with this in mind, you mentioned that. What are some of the other activities that you have coming up here over the
Yeah,
next
I glossed over all of
6 months?
that. Well, there's some stuff that is still in the works that hasn't been released yet, but I guess the easiest thing to do is to run through the website real quick.
So while he's doing that, I'll just talk about stuff that we have done over the past year. So, as you mentioned, we did the bladesmithing merit badge class where we spent an entire day in a forge, teaching each person that attended. I think we had something like 20 people or something, how to take a bar of steel that's about this big and heat it up and literally hammer it into a fucking knife, right? Which sounds kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like abstract probably to the average person, like how that works, but it's literally like, you put that bar of steel in a furnace and you heat it up till it's molten and beat the shit out of it with a hammer until it's a knife. And it's like I like your analogy of like how, it kind of ties to like magical, mythical things to form metal in that way. Cause it really kind of feels like that.
Yeah.
We did that. We did a canoeing event.
Canoe the Pine.
Yep, Canoe the Pine, which is the coldest river in Michigan and pretty interesting to canoe on. Which we'll repeat that. It's a good perennial classic, right?
Right.
We taught a lockpicking class at Tangent in Detroit, which I thought was fucking awesome. It was one of my favorite events we've done. It was pretty simple. In an evening, we brought in a locksmith and we learned theory of how locks work. And completely lost all faith in all your security forever because I can break into your house in about 5 seconds with some very, very basic cheap tools. Lockpicking is a thing that Dos Equis guy would know how to do, right? If he finds himself locked in a room or locked out of a room, of course he would know how to defeat the lock, right? So, we've had what else have we done, Jay?
We did
Steak and shoot.
We did the steak and shoot, shotgun shooting, which was skeet shooting. That was a lot of fun. There was lockpicking. I mean, as far as merit badges, there's only a few that we've actually had official merit badges classes. We did which wasn't an official, like, as things are growing and now that things are being locked in, like, we've really only been in existence for less than a year.
In a pandemic at that.
Yeah, exactly. So
we did have big plans this year that kind of got destroyed because of that.
So
the next thing is next weekend we're doing a snowmobiling merit badge. So we're actually, or not next weekend, the weekend after. So we rented an incredible lodge up in Houghton, Hancock, and we have something like 14 people or something signed up for that. So we'll teach the fundamentals of snowmobiling, meaning how to theoretically safely do something that's extremely dangerous, and then how to deal with all of the basic common problems that you would have along the way while snowmobiling. And then we're going to send people on a pretty interesting wild adventure to the very tip of Michigan, all the way to past Eagle Harbor to High Rock Bay, very tip of the Keweenaw Peninsula, which in the winter is like a whole Narnia up there. I mean, it's a different world. So that'll be super cool.
I'm really excited for that.
And then Jay, what else do we have on the calendar after that?
Yeah, so the snowmobile adventure, and again, all these events have been, because of the pandemic, have been small and controlled. Originally, we were going to do a very large event, so we're just doing growing at a rate that I didn't expect, but still been awesome. So the snowmobile.
If you know Jason or me, you know that we don't know how to do things small. We like to have events with thousands of people at them, both of us. Yeah,
we're doing a second lockpicking class because now we have several more members since the last time we did one. So we're doing another one in March, and then we're doing our first. This is also part of what is going to ultimately part of the mentorship program. Is one of our members is presenting a workshop, which is something that is a growth skill for them. Not necessarily that they can't do it, that it's something they do well, but that whole process of being able to present a skill, teach a skill, and do all that is the life casting workshop, which life casting is it was an old art that died out and then came back in like Europe. It's a casting of your face to preserve the life that you once were, or they would do it of bodies as like a last photograph of a dead person. But then it died out and then came back, and now it's primarily used for like prosthetics and makeup and special effects. But it's still going to be a very cool class. After that, we're doing the surf training, which will be a merit badge training class in Costa Rica. It's 16 hours of training, video analysis, photographs with some of the best coaches in Costa Rica, and right now it's one of the places that you can travel to as a U.S. citizen, and it's fairly empty and cheap to get to as far as international travel since our Vietnam trip got postponed. So it's like that. This is just another thing that we're, because the goal is to not just do everything close to home, and then the resurgent of the canoe trip. So we're doing the Canoe the Pine, which will be as it was our very first trip. It was very loose and non-structured. There was a few things that it could have been done a lot better. So we plan to do that this time. So same thing. You can't pick your canoe partner. You must canoe. But there will be actual training, merit badge workshop, and the same, hopefully, camaraderie and fellowship that we had the first time, because that showed me, even though it was not structured and there was it was more partying, less learning, that showed me that this was something that people needed. The fly fishing trip showed me how to actually achieve what it was that we were trying to do. Then the Great American Monkey 1000, which is in September, and then now we have postponed the Vietnam Riders group, which will be expanded and opened up to the group for 2022. But other things that are in the works, we plan on doing a shooting day. Problem with finding outdoor ranges and things like that right now has been an issue, so we've been postponing that. But also we plan on doing a weekend knife making class in which is not to be confused with bladesmithing. This would be from a blank, but you get to do all of the finishing work and have a very, very, very high quality knife at the end of it for a camping weekend up in Sutton Bay. As well as which was an unofficial group trip before the canoe trip, was the spring turkey hunt. So we plan to put together the wobble gobble, as it was known, turkey hunting, which I had never been turkey hunting before. I learned a lot. Hopefully we can teach a lot, because turkey are part of the raptor family, are very, very difficult to hunt, and they look like big fat slow birds, but they are
Clever girls.
Very, very, very clever.
Look up YouTube turkey attacks. It's fucking amazing. It really is pretty astounding.
I actually bought a ghillie suit for it, because that's what you need. That's how it rolls.
And another true story, I won't tell you how or any of the details, but almost everyone almost got arrested. So we will.
Yeah, we're gonna fix that this time. We're gonna make sure that doesn't happen.
So the jailbreak merit badge is in the works.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
And can I tell you that one of which I didn't really think about it at the time when we started this, but as a graphic artist, one of the very satisfying things that I've had is to actually create merit badges, and like it's been I don't actually have all these merit badges. I just put them on this thing as a sample, but yeah, it's it's so cool.
It is kind of hilarious to have like a bunch of adult men, like, it's kind of just, it feels goofy at times, but it's also immensely satisfying to have like these guys really, really working hard to get this tiny little patch. Cause it means a lot. I mean, to me, it's worth more than, a sum of money or something, some nice material possession to have this little fucking circle that indicates that I have, passed some test or earned some skill.
Well, they're in the guild. The guild market is a private store that only members can go to. In the guild market, it is listed as a because of the. I don't have any way to keep people from buying stuff, so what we do is the merit badges are $10,000 a piece, and should you be awarded a merit badge, you get a $9,995 discount.
Yeah.
So that you can buy your merit badge from the store.
I hope someone does buy them for $10,000 though. That'd be really nice, actually.
Right?
Well, that's what I said. Yeah. If you want to pay $10,000 as a donation to the Adventureman's Guild, I will gladly send you a merit badge of your choice as an honorary merit badge.
So you guys have another system beyond the merit badges, and I always joked that I always want to have an Irish bar brawl school of martial arts where you start off with like an O'Doul's belt and you work up to a Killian's, and then Guinness is the black belt, and you move into the Jameson and the Scotches. But you guys actually have that here, and can you talk a little bit about how you move from chap on up within the Adventureman's Guild?
Yeah, you want to handle that? I mean, we work together, but you spearheaded a lot of that stuff, Jeff.
Yeah, so kind of like in a lot of different organizations, military, ranking systems, things like that. We have several different levels that you can achieve, right? And in order to achieve those levels, just to become a chap, you basically sign up and pay a month's dues, and you're in, right? Once you're accepted, obviously. But as you desire to advance, I kind of have this idea that I'm sitting here in my office. I hire 100 people a year or something, right? I kind of have this idea that somebody walks in my office one day. It's a hope or a dream, I guess. They walk in my office and they say, "Hey, I'm a master adventureman. I want a job." And I'm just like, "Fuck yeah, okay, you know your shit. You're hired." You know what I mean? So that's that's the top. That means you've worked your way through the system. But how you do that, right? And we're working on, or we figured it out primarily, but it's through a combination of earning merit points, which come from merit badges, right? So that's a very simple process, right? You learn a skill. That skill is worth so many points. But then back to the point that our real goal is to kind of develop better men. You also have to do a couple other things. So depending on what level it is, there's a certain number of points that you have to earn. You have to earn real life certifications. So stuff like Red Cross first aid training, NRA firearm, NAUI or PADI, not PADI, scuba diving training. Other organizations that we believe are legitimate authorities in the space, and we just recognize that and say, hey, if you're an FAA certified pilot, that counts. We're not going to reinvent the world of certifying pilots. So combination of merit points, adventures, real life certifications, and mentorship. So there's different rules. Like you have to, help your fellow brothers get to a different, different rank in order to advance. So, by doing a combination of those things, by the time you get to the end, you fucking know a lot of shit and you've helped a lot of people. And that really, as simple as it sounds, that's a pretty admirable place to be. So that's how it works.
Yeah, the Master Adventureman is like our Eagle Scout, and it's really fucking I want that gold pin so bad, but it's really hard. It's gonna be really hard.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So you guys, you yourselves are gonna have to work up these different levels.
Yes. We were actually calculating some of the stuff. We've finally settled on the whole system and have ordered the first round of fellow pins. So you're a chap, then you're a fellow, then you're a brother, then you're a gentleman, then you're a scholar, then you're a master adventureman. And I think based on my skills and my mentorship that I would probably fall into being a brother, but I gotta calculate that stuff. Also need to work with somebody to try and help build out that back end for the website so that we can keep track of all of these point systems and stuff. So it's still a growth process, but basically the first pin will be the fellow pin, which should be here within a month. They've been ordered. It took me over a month to go back and forth with designers to have all this stuff, the casts, the molds, all this stuff made. But the idea is...
We're not yet casting our own pins.
Yes.
But eventually.
The idea... The idea is that beyond the merit badges, which will only be worn for ceremonial and show off kind of purposes, is that it will be a universal lapel pin that all look identical, but are differentiated by color, so that you can know who is in what rank from across the room, and it's pretty low key so that you can wear it all the time, and only the people that know will know. It's not a it's not a full uniform like a Boy Scout uniform or anything
That
like
gold chain with
no.
No, I mean, yeah, I'm surprised you haven't made the martial arts analogy yet, Brick, but it's your belt, right?
Very much
so.
Yeah.
What does it mean to earn that belt, right? And
it's kind of nice, but it's also kind of subtle, and it's subtle and something you wear everywhere. Like, you don't wear that black belt everywhere. This pin can go with you everywhere. So those who
I will wear it everywhere that I go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to.
Well, because ultimately it means a lot to you. It's like an accomplishment that you've, you've done a lot of very impactful things to get that. You should be proud of it.
And I'm not going to give this away, but I'm just going to hint at it. There's also another thing that you guys have already implemented that is kind of
that's secret. That's
I'm just going further. Just that there's a secret that has already been introduced. So there's multiple layers to this. Is kind of what I'm getting at here.
I've been trying to make this thing a cult since day one, and Jay's been trying to talk me out of it.
I already have a cult. I'm trying to get out of that one. So.
It's like, So I'm really curious here. So I mean, obviously, I've been to a lot of these events, but Zach, you haven't. I'm curious. Is this kind of what you expected, and what are your kind of thoughts here?
I think certain aspects and certain skills are things that I would be interested in. It sounds, some of the things were daunting to me. I have zero skill currently in fixing stuff, but I'm very interested in survival stuff. Very interested in generally being more capable. But I don't know what if there was a surviving in the forest thing coming up. I would be about that.
It's definitely,
and that's kind of like one of the things.
If you didn't know,
we all started talking at the same time.
If you didn't know what they offer, what would you want? What would you want to do? Like, what are you kind of intrigued by from what you've heard so far?
Well, there was a time where I went to a Freemason lodge, and somebody explained that in a way that actually made it attractive. For years of thinking it was like Illuminati sort of thing, and just and that having the fraternal order, having the pride from climbing the ranks, and just generally the support, though. That I think is the most attractive to everyone who doesn't want that in their life.
That's kind of
one of the things that we've kind of noticed is that, and part of the way that we've designed the rank system too, is that there isn't one way to get there. It's kind of like choose your own adventure, right? Like, if you're not a guy that has any desire to ever pound a piece of metal into a knife, you don't have to. There's like enough, the things you can't avoid are the character development things, right? Like in the ranks, in the climbing through the ranks, like you need to help people. You need to learn some things about, conduct, but specifically the skills that you learn along the way, those are very fluid. So like, when I had that kind of in mind when we were doing it, like, you don't have to be a guy that's like going to go do every motorcycle and boat and snowmobile trip, right? You can be a guy that's much more of an outdoorsman like that really enjoys a whole different kind of approach to life, and still get a similar experience. So but I hear what you're saying, like, you're not particularly interested in one thing, but you have an interest in, for instance, wilderness survival, which is one of our merit badges, right? Like, go figure out a fucking.
I would go
What do you
shooting.
say?
Shooting. I would be interested in the shooting event. I'd be interested in the lockpicking.
Well, the lock
But you
picking's
said
coming
one
up.
word that's really, really important, which is capability, because that's ultimately what all this stuff boils down to, is capability, right? Like, do you feel confident and have the ability and capability to execute a task at hand, whatever the hell it is, whether it's
or a person. I
yeah.
want to be a better assassin and survivalist. I want to know how to maintain my own life and take others on a mercenary basis. Political assassin.
That's a skill that we support. Yeah.
All right, sign me up.
The taking out the world leader merit badge. I dig it. I like it.
Yeah.
That's one of the secret
into
merit
it.
badges.
There you go.
We do have secret merit badges. And,
There are secret merit badges that are difficult to talk about.
So I think that this has given a really good general overview of the Adventureman's Guild, kind of why it's kind of come about. And again, something that Zach and I talk about a lot here is, this is the idea of Paradialectic, is that every human being has these extremes within them. And when we try to artificially separate them from the whole, it becomes a problem. And I think that's sometimes the criticism people have about a men's only group, is they're going, well, you're making this all about men. Well, and then they go, you're already in the patriarchy. Well, I think if we're really honest about it, the patriarchy, what we consider the negative aspects of masculinity, it's something that people have been talking about very openly since the late 60s, early 70s. And so that's 40 years now of kind of dogging on the negative aspects of masculinity. And I think a casualty of that has been the positive aspects of masculinity. And so I think that what kind of this group is doing is it's making available a positive aspect of that masculine side of a dialectic that has been the baby had been thrown out with the bathwater, in a sense. And you guys are kind of bringing this back in a way that isn't a reaction against feminism. It's not a reaction against women. It's not and it's also not trying to mimic the way that other groups already gather. It's kind of coming back to that heart of different forms of positive masculinity. And I'm hearing you guys talk about mentorship, challenge, respect, feeling at home in different situations, welcoming different people, and being able to go to meet different people in different situations, whether it's near home or halfway across the world, and to be more comfortable there. And it sounds like this is an area that is kind of rare these days.
I
So
would
how do
agree.
you guys feel about that?
Yeah, it's something that in doing the research of building where we've gotten this far, which I feel like compared to when we were just like, yeah, let's do like man Boy Scouts, and that'll be, to where we are now, it's light years, because the like I said, the amount of research and the amount of reading and articles and trying to find out what we don't want to be versus what we want to be, and even just finding content and trying to even just maintain the Facebook page and putting together stuff for our articles that are on the website and stuff. It's just like the research materials are just soaked in testosterone that are just not what we're trying to portray. It's like there's this whole one aspect of taking back masculinity that's like, you need to dominate, you need to be the alpha male, you need to do this, you need to do that, and then there's this other aspect of it where it's just like no, you need to embrace being sensitive, and you need to embrace this, this which, for lack of a better term in today's culture, would be considered feminine side. I'm trying to strike a balance between the two of those things, and even though our group is oriented towards being a man and being masculine, it's ultimately being a better human being and being a better person, and bettering yourself while bettering the people that are around you, and in doing so, trying to find good content and good articles about that is just so challenging, because I'll run into these like, this is a perfect article exactly about what I want, and then like somewhere in the middle of it they'll fuck it up and be like, it was like, unlike women, blah 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 blah, and it's just like, god damn it, like now I can't share this, now I won't show anybody that. Like everything was point on until you started comparing yourself to women, until you started comparing yourself to something else. It's not about the comparison, it's about what it is that we want to strive for as a man, even if that is drawing a line between the two sexes. I am a man. There is a line between me and a female, and it's not that they're lesser than. As far as I'm concerned, I have a lot to learn, but there's no reason to degrade the other side to make yourself better.
Mm-hmm. So we've got a comment here.
Oh, Danielle Doxy Katz, whom I believe all four of us know. She says, we need a space for men to openly talk and support and help each other grow. This is fucking great that you are building on that. The timing is perfect.
And I think it really does get to that, because in Paradialectic, it's about that balance. We have a lot right now. We've had many years of elevating what was other than what was dominating in culture 50 years ago. And I think each decade we elevate other qualities that people have and can demonstrate more and more. But it's really great to see that you guys are kind of looking for the gems, for the gold in the aspects that have been kind of maligned along with a lot of this. And it's not through bitterness. It's not out of reaction. It's not reflexive rebellion. It's not saying, well, the other side of the people are wrong because of this, this, and this. It's like, no, like this is solid. This is part of us. And this is fucking fun. So cheers to that, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So any last minute thoughts to wrap up? Anything that you guys haven't said or kind of thought of that you'd like to kind of wrap up with?
I guess, I don't know. One of the things that's proving out with the guild is that, yes, we go have fun. We go do adventures. We are planning to do increasingly stupid shit. But more than anything, it's a skill-building support network. I mean, I'm trying to encourage people to understand, and it's happening. It's proving out. Like people are networking and getting to know each other and bettering themselves through knowing the other person. Is that it's not just a club; it's a resource. It's a place that you can use as a sounding board, as you can use as a way to fulfill not fulfill needs, but you know what I mean, like just a place that you can rely on one another. I don't want it to be like we just all pay our dues and then we go on this canoe trip and oh, that was fun, whatever. It was like we interact. We should more interact daily. I'm trying to push people to talk to one another more and more and rely on one another to solve problems in their life, or ask for advice and ask for, this is much bigger than like I just want to get a fucking merit badge.
I find it interesting. I kind of study like trend, or I've been studying trends in fraternal organizations. If you look at the turn of the century, I guess the turn of the century just happened again, but the one I'm referring to is when the 1900s began. I think something like 90% of adult men were in some sort of fraternal organization. Back then you had, Zach mentioned, you had the Masons, you had the Elks, the Odd Fellows, the list goes on. It's like 20, 30 pretty strong, prominent fraternities in the United States. And now 2% of adult men are in fraternities. But very, very interestingly, about 85% of presidents and people in power are members of fraternities still. So the world, there's this immense power to having a group of people that you can use as a support network, that you can sound ideas off of, that you can use for support in 1,000 different ways. And it's still being utilized in the structure of power in the world in the United States today. It's just not enjoyed by everyone, So it's fraternities have kind of gone from something for the everyman to something for the elite. And so that's another kind of motivating force behind, why I want to do it. I really enjoy, I'm like a very successful business person, right? And I really enjoy discussing business with people that are just getting started in things. And I have tons of wisdom that I'm willing to share, and tons of resources I'm willing to share for free. I'll help them in ways, I help people every day in ways they probably don't appreciate at the time, but they don't realize how difficult it is to get that type of information, right? And by directly rubbing shoulders with people that are doing the things that you want to do, because it's the same thing with me. I mean, I try to do the same and find people that are doing what I want to be doing, and that are succeeding in the ways that I want to succeed, and glean whatever I can from what they're doing. So having a structure in which that becomes really comfortable and where that kind of thing is supported is something that in modern society, with all the fucking bullshit, little tiny conversations that we have and fake relationships we have, is rare. So I don't know. It's a very human thing that can really, I think, change culture in a really positive way, and really elevate a lot of people in a really positive way.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys for coming on. I really appreciate what you are both doing, and been excellent to have you on. Where can people find you guys in the Adventureman's Guild?
Well, it is the Adventureman's Guild for the Adventure Man, but the adventuremansguild.com, which is the longest, most awkward web address ever. But
and it gets auto-corrected every time you try to put it in.
Yeah. But yes, the adventuremansguild.com is the best place to look for what events are coming up. It's where you can sign up. There is a vetting process if you want to join. Jeff hates it, but I stand by it. That you can't just pay your money and you're a member. You have to fill out a thing, and then we will interview you, and then you decide, if the things work out. There haven't been very many members turned down yet, but I assume that will probably grow as the event grows and the people that want to be attracted to this. Because I think that what we are building is a foundation for a movement of much larger goals for
Actually, I have a question
people.
for you, Zach, sitting here, because we've kind of already talked about this before, Brick. Let's say some guy, Miller Lite 69 with a Confederate flag profile picture, tries to join our group. Based on everything you know today, what should we do?
Well, do you have a stock response for? Let's just isolate the Miller Lite 69. Like, is the problem that
this is a real thing? This is a real thing we're talking about. Right now.
It's a real issue. Yes. So I have a hard stance on a few things, but rebel flags in your profile picture are a point of contention as to, well, is this person just naive and needs help, and needs guidance, or is this a flat out racist? And then there's the ones that are clear that are just like, okay, well, you got, lightning S's in your profile, then I guess you're out.
Yeah,
So
that one doesn't work.
yeah,
How
that
about
one.
come back once you've shed that shit?
What's
Or
that?
how about would it be come back once you've shed that shit, or because it occurs to me that having a group of positive influences in someone's life might be the thing that eradicates some of the worst intellectual malware that they may be containing.
Well, that is part of the contention between Jeff and I, because I think I'm maybe a little hardliner against the naivety than Jeff is, that these people need focus and need somebody like us. And I can agree to a point, but when you have 19 photos of you in a Confederate flag costume, then I don't want to camp with you. So we're trying to figure this out. How do we breach this level of like, okay, like, is there a probationary period? Is there a a larger council that needs to be consulted?
Or the black guy from Georgia is his mentor.
Well, let's remove the.
That's the ultimate perfect situation, right?
That is the ultimate perfect situation.
And that sort of thing, I do agree with. It's hard work, and it's annoying to be in the company of someone that you like. It's not our responsibility to be confronting something as shitty as that. Let's drop the Confederate flag and say that it was just Miller Lite 69.
I have nothing against
Miller Lite 69.
Are you just because
that's not a problem. That guy just needs a little bit of culture. That's different.
He can still be Lady Merit bad.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
but these are real things. We agonize over this shit.
These are real issues, especially as we start to gain more and more traction and popularity of even just site throughput, like people that haven't even signed up, but I'm looking at people like who are liking, sharing, and dealing with our content, and I'm just like, I don't want this guy to fucking share our stuff.
Well, maybe I would say my specific, just my knee-jerk answer to that would be, you got to say to the guy that this is so the fuck not that, and I think that it would be honest to say that we would be actively trying to remove that nonsense from your you.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's just that where I think that where Jeff's heart lies is that, well, can we change that person? And
that's a disease I have. Yeah.
And I agree that might be something worth exploring, but I certainly don't want to charge somebody $10 a month to be like, I hate this person, and then also then have a bad experience that will then be a bad experience for what it is, the heart of our community that we're trying to build. But I get that you can't turn your back on a problem that you're trying to fix.
So I thought something that I've heard Jeff speak on many times, and it's something that I think is really important, is that part of the reason why we do Paradialectic is we want to talk about controversial things that are hard to talk about in this culture right now, because there's a tendency to pull towards extremes. And part of the reason why Zach and I have been wanting to do that is we've been wanting to try to kind of understand what is valuable in each of the extremes so that we have that flexible range available to us. But at the same time, Jay, I hear what you're saying, which is at a certain point, you're doing a fuck of a lot of work for one person.
Yeah.
And it can turn away a lot of other people. And so that really, that's a flexible extreme there, is that radical inclusion that Burning Man deals with versus that civic responsibility that Burning Man also deals with. And that's fucking hard. That's really hard.
Well, and that's where I think that like a little bit of the divide comes from between Jeff and I, which are both 50-50 we made this, that it's just like, it's like, I think that the 0.5% that we can change isn't worth the damage that it will cause to have them at an event.
And so I think this is where you guys' idea of mentors can be is really powerful. And maybe there's events that are radically inclusive, and maybe there's events
there will be, and that is part of things moving forward, except for the fact that no one can actually gather. Is the plan? The plan is that there are a couple events on the page right now, but like lockpicking and a couple other things, like lockpicking right now is members only, but it will be opened up because I want members to have first stab at it. But basically, there will be events that are open to public, that are co-ed, that are, you can bring your significant other. There are that, and then there's guild events. Mm-hmm. And those are two different things. But I think that the argument is, do you let somebody into the guild that you don't agree with?
So I think
it's not about an ideological. It's not about. This is about a fundamental disagreement. You know, I mean, this is different than you're a Republican and I'm a Democrat, or this is. I mean, you know,
I think
you're a fucking racist.
A fundamental, masculine skill set of that ability for people to be honest, authentic, and call people on their shit without being insulting. And so if someone walks into an Adventureman's Guild event and they've got a Confederate flag cape, and then some of those people are like, dude, fuck you. In a respectful, grounded way, like, that's a powerful statement. And I think that in itself is a masculine skill.
Wait, fuck you in a powerful and respectful way.
Exactly. Because I think this is one of the myths that comes. I was going to like wrap things up, but this is really interesting. So let's keep going. I think when you're kind of looking at this softer form of communication that's really been pushed by people in my profession, therapists, for a long period of time, is that everybody has to be empathetic and caring, and anything other than that is hurtful and invalidating. And I do think there's something about, like, if someone walks into an event and there's a record scratch, and a bunch of people look at you like, dude, fuck you. And it doesn't mean like fuck you at the core. It means like what you're doing right now is not okay. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be honest about that. And we're going to be authentic about that. Like, I think that.
But I recently had a conversation in exactly that vein. You know, I grew up in a place where casual racism was the way of life. I mean, that's how it worked, right?
I grew up as a fucking hillbilly. Like, someone
that I grew up with said something in my presence. It was just me and him, you know, and he said something, and I was like, hey, like, you can fucking shut the fuck up. Like, I'm not okay with you saying it. Like, it was a little contentious, and there was some strong words, but it wasn't from a place like fuck you. It was like, you know, I was condemning his behavior, and we both walked away from that situation, and there was mutual respect, and it was like, oh, and I don't think he'll say the thing he said probably again for quite some time, you know? So I was like, you know.
Yeah, right now, and Jeff, this is something you and I have talked about, is I think this is also something that Zach and I talk about quite a bit. When you have one half of the country going, we have free speech because we can be real, and they're kind of reclaiming this, and it's actually on the right. And then on the left, there's a lot of judgment and saying you cannot literally talk about or bring these things in because you are a bad person. That's kind of different than what we're talking about here. We're like, you can come in as how you are, but if how you're coming in goes against the morals of the people here, we're just gonna be like, that thing that you're doing, maybe not you as a person is fucking bad. Maybe you're not evil, but like, fuck that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the fine line that's kind of being talked about here.
I think that it's an interesting point of view of, like, I mean, I still want to vet people because at this point we're starting to gain people quicker than you could quickly lose the heart if there was a bunch of people that joined that may lean that way, and then now that's the norm. You know what I mean? Rather than vet and vouch and have people in the organization. But I can understand how it might be worth it to even allow somebody that is not in your point of view to be exposed to what your point of view is, even if they quit.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I get it, but at the same time, I don't want there to be a organization where there is 50 people in an organization and then 30 people sign up that are exactly the opposite of that organization,
Right.
and then they all go on a trip, and then now it's a fight.
Yeah, that would be a big problem for sure.
You know, so it's a hard balance to strike right now, because I even though we are deeply rooted in a multicultural diverse and sexual diverse and whatever diverse Burning Man community, like most of the people that are part of the guild are from that because they're our friends, but not everyone. There are some people that are deeply religious. There are some people that are, I mean, it's grown in ways I didn't expect. Let's put it that way. And I don't want to jeopardize that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I want to keep it open. So it's a very dicey path, you know.
And it's something you guys are making a good approach of with the mentorship, with really taking time to develop that manual, with kind of allowing this growth to be slow. It's you guys are trying to strike that balance between those two poles.
And you could put that in the language to, you know, you can put in the language that this is not what you're looking for if you're seeking a safe space to be a racist, or, you know, like this. But I'm with you, Jeff, in that it is a very noble mission to want to convert people who are heading down a dark path or deeply embedded in some bad shit. It's just like, say you have a camping trip. I've seen it happen with just like psychedelic experiences where it's like there's one person who's got this sort of problems, and now we all 12 of us are focusing on this problem as opposed to doing our own work. Like that can hold up the progress of things a lot. But if it's really worth it to you and save the world in that way, then, you know.
I think the best thing is that Jay and I don't agree on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's good. That helps.
Exactly.
I actually think the best thing of the entire guild is that we don't agree on the entire guild.
Yeah.
So
everything
I
we do,
fight
it's
with
like,
him on everything.
Yeah.
So.
But we have a really good debate though, and I think we ultimately always land on what's probably the best solution for everything. So it's
that dynamic
yes.
range there. It's that kind of looking at the poles and then finding what works in the middle. So it's
and that's what's been happening. So I think it's really good.
That ability as gentlemen to have difficult conversations, to have those challenging conversations and be real, authentic about it.
That is actually like one of the things. Like, I want to take back the word argument. Like, everyone thinks that an argument means yelling at each other.
Or
that
women.
is not, or women, yes, which is the worst part of it. It's like, oh, well, you argue with women, you talk with a man. That's not true. An argument is a intellectual process. An argument means arguing your point. It's a lawyer term that you are arguing to explain your point of view. And that should be the definition of arguing, not screaming at each other.
Yeah, I mean, the goal is to explain your point of view and try to understand someone else's point of view and try to find common ground or try to find the truth, really, because you're probably both wrong. And that's what we do. It works good, I think.
Most of the time, we're both wrong.
Yeah, yeah, most of the time. But you can be the best of friends with someone and have a completely different, you know, perspective on most things, and that actually creates I think the most interesting and dynamic relationships. If you literally were just sitting on the couch and you're like, yeah, this is great, yep, cool, yep, agree, yep, what the fuck kind of life is that? You know what I mean? It's just no fun.
So guys, this has been great. This has been an excellent conversation. I really appreciate you two coming on. Again, I've been able to, I've had the pleasure of kind of joining you guys on some of these adventures. Going to be going another one here with the snowmobiling in a couple of weeks. Looking forward to that.
I can't wait.
I'm glad that we had this conversation. And again, I think this is powerful. I think that in terms of Paradialectic, I really love that you guys are kind of looking to this aspect that has been lost and are finding a way to bring it back. And I'm really excited for it. So thank you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's been its own reward. I did not expect anyone else. Jeff and I were the first members to pay $10 a month to be in our own club. and
That's true.
We still pay. There's no free ride, but it's amazing. I feel like of all the things that I've ever done to be a better man, this is it.
Well, thank
Me
you.
too. Yeah.
So again, you guys can be found at Adventureman's Guild Possessive.com. And
Yes.
this is so again, Jason McCombs, Jeff Dudewolf, thank you for joining us. I'm Eric Miller, Thaddeus McCracken on Facebook, and we have
I am Zakery Winchester.
And you can find this, if you didn't get to watch the whole thing, it'll be on Facebook for a short time. And you can find this on Zach Winchester's YouTube page to follow up if you want to go back and get all the good bits. So thank you guys, and cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.